Welcome to the next video on Jackson. I'm doing it back to back, but I don't know when you're going to watch it. So, the Indian Removal Act of 1830 is what we are going to be looking at. This is Jackson's Native American policy. He gets a bad rap for his treatment of Native Americans, and we're going to see exactly what it is and does he deserve it. So, the Indian Removal Act of 1830. So the Cherokee, they have their own nation in America, and they pretty much start in 1827. 1820 is when they sort of kind of start, but it's official in 1827. And Jackson wants to actually protect the Native Americans from the Southerners. All right, so he wants to protect the natives from the Southern whites, and there are two major reasons. One, white people found gold in them there hills. And so they found the gold where they were staying, and so they had to take care of what they wanted to take care of. The second reason is they wanted to prevent war between the natives and the whites. All right, so they wanted to, that's what Jackson wanted. He wanted to prevent war between the two. Now, how does he do this? How does he want to do this? He wants to move the Native Americans west. Yes, west. I thought it was pretty good. And where? Where does he want to do it? He wants to move them to Oklahoma. It is west of the Mississippi River, and that's where he wants to go. The Cherokee are like, oh no, you didn't. All right, and so they actually do sue Georgia, believe it or not. So they have the Cherokee Nation versus Georgia in 1831. That did not end too well for them. It didn't. Basically, the situation is they were like, yeah, you're not citizens of America, so you can't, sue a state. So a second time comes around, and you have a missionary. His name is Samuel Worcester, who says, I'll be your spokesperson, and he sues Georgia for them. And that one is legal, and it goes all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court declares that the Cherokee Nation can stay, that they are a domestic, dependent nation. They're allowed to be inside of America. It's true, all right? And Jackson's response is, John Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it. Yes, he's like, hands off. I'm done. I wanted to move them west. I wanted to protect them. But you know what? Marshall just wants to let them stay and get picked on. I'm not going to deal with it. That's his decision. Let him find out how to enforce that rule. All right. So where is this land? This land is in northern Georgia, a little bit southern Tennessee, and you've got the east part of Alabama, a little bit of North Carolina. So it's that whole chunk that you see right there. It lasts until 1838, until some other event that shows up. I wonder what that one is. All right, so it's northern Georgia, southern Tennessee, southwestern North Carolina, northeastern Alabama, all that big chunky area of land. Now, so we have the Treaty of New Echota, and so I'm going to give you some of the details here. When it happened, all right. So the Treaty of New Echota is a deal that they're trying to make with the Native Americans, and they are going to give them $5 million for the 8 million acre chunk of land. All right, and some of the natives actually start moving west. They're like, well, we made a deal, so let's go. But 20,000 of them say, yeah, we didn't sign that. We're not going to do it. And they stay there until 1838, when Martin Van Buren takes over as president. And he moves them there to the west by force. That's known as the Trail of Tears. So, it's not Andrew Jackson who finalizes the move. It's Martin Van Buren. And Martin Van Buren moves them in the Trail of Tears. And the thing is, they could have done this at any time, but they choose like November, December, and January to move them of 1838 to 1839. And That's really rough. It's a tough time to move, especially when you're in chains. A quarter of that population of 20,000 die on that $1,600 mile march. That's why it's called the Trail of Tears. Over 4,000 deaths occur on this journey. So this is the path that they have taken, all right? And so you can see where they go all over the place. And they take some of them out from the Seminole area of Florida and move them all over, and they all live on reservations to Oklahoma. And we say, you can have this land forever, you're going to be fine. We'll never ever take it away from you. Until some guy named Abraham Lincoln shows up, and he's like, we could use that land. We should move those Native Americans somewhere else. All right, we'll get there when we talk about Lincoln. This is the iconic picture. It looks all happy, but it wasn't. It wasn't. They were in chains. All right? It was not a good situation. Another situation with Ajax, Andrew Jackson, president number 7. All right? There's basically they have to figure out what to do about the bank, the renewing of the charter of the Bank of the United States. All right? The bus. There's two schools of thought, all right? There's two schools of thought. There is soft money and hard money. And I'm sorry, I know my picture is there in front. I will try my best to figure out a way to help you out with that. I'll just talk about it. How's that? So, soft money. That is paper money, all right? Andrew Jackson is an individual who likes hard money, all right? Hard money, right? Hard money. It'd be gold and silver and things like that. Soft money. You have state bankers felt that it restrained the state banks from issuing banknotes freely. Like the states are like going, we don't have any freedom with our money, all right? And it supports rapid economic growth and speculation, which is a little bit scary for banks. They're like, I don't like people speculating what's going to happen with our economy. Now, the hard money, it seems a little bit more firm, all right? More structured. And it felt that coin was the only safe currency out there. And it didn't like any bank that issued banknotes. Now, the part that's covered up by the picture of me, hi, all right, that says that they are suspicious of expansion and speculation, all right? So they are suspicious of all that. They're just like, no, you're moving too fast. Don't go expanding way too much. It's going to create a monopoly. We don't like monopolies, all right? All right. Good stuff. So, Jackson wants to kill the bus. He wants to destroy the monster. That's what he calls it. He calls it a monster, the bus, the Bank of the United States. And so he favors hard money, right? And he favors state banks, which are known as pet banks. Pet banks because they are loyal, like a pet, to the Democrats. The state banks are pet banks, and they're loyal to the Democrats. And Jackson wants to kill the bus. So he has some actions here. In 1832, he vetoes the extension of the Second Bank of the United States. Yes, he vetoes the charter of the second bus. And when the charter expires, he puts all the money into the state pet banks, which causes the banks to then go, or the federal bus to go bankrupt by 1841. Now, there was a guy, his name was Nicholas Biddle. He was in charge of the bus. And he sees what Jackson is doing. So he does something a little sneaky. He's like, you know what? Andrew Jackson likes that spoil system kind of idea. He puts his friends into office. That whole kitchen cabinet, it's a bunch of his friends. I know what I'll do. I'm going to hire Jackson's friends, and I'm going to put them in the Bank of the United States. And then he won't kill the bus because he's going to be like, oh, my friends have jobs there. I'm not going to kill the bus now. But Jackson says, I really don't care. And he kills the bus anyway, all right? And the final outcome, as I said, was bankruptcy. Right. So in 1832, people are going, this Andrew Jackson guy, he seems to be acting like a king. He has actually vetoed in his first term 12 times. The first 6 presidents vetoed a total of 7 times. This guy, he's like, they're wimps. 7 times for 6 guys. I'm going to do 12 in 1 term. All right, so people are going, he's acting like a king. He's shredding up the Constitution, as you can see in that little political cartoony tuning. All right, and so they start calling him King Andrew the First, and that is what the political opponents called Jackson. And what do they do? Well, they decide to change the name of their political party to the Whig Party. And why? Why the Whig Party? Because they say he's acting like a king. And in Parliament over in England, the people who opposed the king were known as the Whig Party. Bam! There you go. What comes around goes around. So in 1832, he does win, as you can see. He runs against some guy named Henry Clay. Yeah. It's crazy. 219 electoral college votes to 49. Then you have some other guy, Wirt, who was the anti-Masons. There's those Masons, those conspiracy theorist things, and this guy's like, I don't like those Masons. All right, back then, all right, crazy. And then you have the Independent Democrats and some guy named Floyd. Floyd, that's a good name. All right. So, in the second term, Jackson has a situation with something called the Specie Circular. All right, and this deals with wildcat banks. All right. Wildcat banks are pet banks. They are pet banks that print more money than we had gold. All right. And Jackson's like, yeah, whatever. I'm already killing the bus. We'll see how these state banks handle this stuff. And, well, Jackson realizes that people will need to buy land with gold or silver. They were going to have to rely on gold and silver, and that this money that's being printed is just going to evaporate. All right, it's not going to be good. We're going to have major problems. But it's the end of his term, and he's like, well, there's nothing I can do now. All right. And there are 6 results due to his actions, folks. Banknotes lose their value because they're printing way too much. It's called inflation, almost hyperinflation. All right. Land sales plummet because people are like, I don't have gold and silver to buy land. All right. People don't have credit. All right. There's no credit available. Businesses begin to fail because cash money is starting to fail and gold and silver is not in major supply. Unemployment is rising. So you have unemployment rising, inflation, and now you've got a situation called the Panic of 1837. Yeesh. That's what happens. It's kind of like the Great Depression, all right? Except in the 1830s. Anyway, through all that, that's exactly how Martin Van Buren has to begin his presidency, because he wins in the 1836 election. All right, so Martin Van Buren beats some guy named William Henry Harrison. But don't worry, that William Henry Harrison guy, I think he's going to come up to be a president one day, at least for a month. All right. So Martin Van Buren wins in 1836. Now, we do have our final thoughts here. Andrew Jackson, as I said before, is he the champion of the common man? Or is he acting like a king? It's your choice. What I would like you to do, just write a few sentences, all right? Maybe up to a paragraph on your beliefs based on his actions regarding tariffs, Native Americans, and the bus. Is he a common man kind of a president, or is he acting like a king? And if you want to include the 12 vetoes, you can do that too. All right, folks, enjoy, take care, have fun, and peace out, Cub Scouts.